More than 150 people killed in protests in Mozambique. Demonstrators claim that October's presidential election was rigged. The winner from the governing Frelimo party is calling for calm and a national dialogue. But what's driving the unrest? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the programme. I'm Adrian Finighan. Unrest in Mozambique since a presidential election in October worsened this week after the country's courts reaffirmed the ruling Frelimo party's candidate, Daniel Chapo, as the winner. The runner-up, Venacio Mondlane of the Podemos party, says the vote was rigged. Now in exile, he's called for more protests. Since October, hundreds of protesters have been shot by police, thousands have been arrested, and two of Mondlane's aides have been killed. International human rights organisations have condemned the crackdown, while the country's Catholic bishops have rejected the election results as a fraud. European Union poll observers have also listed irregularities. Chapo has called for calm and wants to start a national dialogue, but that may prove to be a challenge as many of the protesters are young people disenchanted with their political leaders. So why are the protests continuing? And are they just about the election results or wider issues? We'll talk to our guests shortly, but first a report from Sarah Gill.
The young people of Mozambique have been protesting for months. They're calling for an end to the governing Frelimo party's decade-long rule and accuse it of rigging October's election.
We are liberating ourselves. We want the government to see that we are angry.
For some, the fight for democracy has come at the ultimate cost. This is Hilario Dima's funeral. He was shot dead in November, reportedly by police forces. His father Benjamin says that protesting is not a crime.
I feel pain for my son, who was shot without doing anything. He did nothing wrong.
President-elect Daniel Chapo has called for calm. In his first speech since being declared winner, he's vowed to be a leader of all. But his rivals continue to call for demonstrations.
This war, this battle that the people are waging, is the fight for justice. It's the fight for legitimacy. It's the fight for the truth. We're seeing people on the streets asking for what they've never had. They've never had food. That's why there's a strong tendency for these people to loot shops. They're not looting because they're brutes, animals or savages. They are people who are hungry.
The unrest is being fueled by a desperate economic situation in Mozambique. A decade of stagnation has left around 2/3 of the population living in poverty. The younger generations say they are bearing the brunt of economic decline.
The young people, they want to work, they are tired. There's no work here in Mozambique, there's no job. The government make it hard, very hard. So, yeah, they are not taking care on us.
80% of the population is under the age of 35. And while the protests may have started as a call for electoral integrity, some say they're now being driven by a cohort of young people demanding a better future. Sarah Gill, Al Jazeera for Inside Story.
Well, before we talk to our guests, let's take a closer look at some more of the political background. Frelimo has dominated politics in Mozambique since independence from Portugal in 1975. A lawyer and former TV journalist with a relatively low profile, Daniel Chapo, was the party's surprise choice for presidential candidate. A left-wing revolutionary party, Frelimo, led the fight against colonial rule by Portugal. It was supported by the Soviet Union, China, and other African revolutionary movements like the ANC in South Africa. The widow of a former leader later married Nelson Mandela. In recent years, it sought closer ties with the West, including investment. Well, Venacio Mondlane of the left-wing Podemos party was the runner-up in the election. The Electoral Commission says that he got 24% of the vote, behind Chapo on 65%. An engineer and also a church pastor, he's a particularly popular man with young people and is widely followed on social media. He's won support among a generation too young to remember Frelimo's revolutionary past, and that feels left out in an economy where most employment is informal. State prosecutors are suing him for $500 million had frozen his bank accounts after he publicly called on supporters to paralyse the country. He's been living in self-imposed exile since the election. Let's bring in our guests for today's discussion. Fredson Guilengue is Senior Programme Manager at the Rosa-Luxemburg-Stiftung, an organisation focused on social justice. He joins us from Johannesburg. And Mendonca is a politician with the opposition party Podemos in Mozambique. He joins us from Maputo. Helder, let's start with you. Let's just get one thing straight. The Constitutional Council is the highest electoral court in Mozambique. Does that mean that now all legal avenues for challenging the result of the election are closed?
Wish a Merry Christmas for the world. By the way, we don't have a Christmas here. But what I can tell you about it, it's that we don't have any avenue to go through that at all, because the Constitutional Code, they just give us the last results. So there is nothing to be claiming at all. But yes, we're going to make some claiming, because there is illegal constitutional issues in the process. And the illegal issues start seems when the time when the voting process was going through. So at the moment, according to the document the court council that they have bringing out, yes, we do have found some biggest mistake that have found it there. So there is nothing legal in that paper. There is nothing fair, and there is nothing that going according to the people wants at the moment. That's why we're seeing all those protests in the country, and we do know exactly that we can't expect some that much on that, but we want even that claiming, because of the all wrong procedures have done there in the process. And it is a period to restart to find out the political solutions, nothing judiciary.
Fredson, if all legal avenues then are closed as far as challenging the election result is concerned, what happens next? Are we likely to see further protests and possibly more violence? Will the country shut down, as the opposition leader has called for it to do on Friday? How do you see this playing out over the coming days and weeks?
Well, I think because there's no any other avenue, any other legal solution for this problem. I must stress that from the very beginning, this has never been a legal problem. I mean, Mozambique is not faced with a legal crisis, but it's basically faced with a political crisis. This is a political problem that is having its expression also in the legal framework of the country, because the lawyers from the Constitutional Court are doing nothing other than following political instructions from the ruling party. Unfortunately, in Mozambique, the situation is as such where the institutions, the public institutions, including the army, the police, and the court, are highly manipulated and highly controlled by the ruling Frelimo. So to the extent that I believe that this is not a legal problem, it's a political crisis that has to be resolved through political means, not necessarily legal means. And it's not the first time that political solutions have been employed in Mozambique in times of crisis. So there has been many other political crises before this one, all of them associated with electoral results. They've all been resolved through negotiations between the ruling Frelimo and then the most dominating political party, the biggest party then, which is Renamo, and its leader, Forza Jacama. So I believe that this has to be resolved politically. If not, then it's going to lead the country into more and more chaos.
Helder, Daniel Chapo has struck a conciliatory tone, but what are the chances of a political situation being found anytime soon, with Venancio being outside of the country, essentially in exile? Will he be able to return to the country anytime soon?
It all depending of the dialogue Venancio comes through to Mozambique, because there is an internal process, an internal issue against Venancio and against Podemos. And we know how this Frelimo's party works in Mozambique. And everyone is afraid that if Venancio comes down, what's going to happen? He might be killed. So about Chapo, people in Mozambique doesn't trust Frelimo anymore. So in this election, all the people is trying to manifest and tell to the government and all society that they completely disagreeing. So Chapo, it's not at the moment legitimate president to our country at the moment. So we can see exactly what this dialogue can give us as a solution. Frelimo was refusing getting a conversation before the results, because we think that they expect to be in this conversation in terms of vantage. But against all this situation, what we can say, who that they will govern if the people is refusing the authority of the state at the moment. That's why we're living this crisis in the country. So there is a lot of questions in between that might be sitting in dialogue. And I think that the solutions might come from there. It's nothing clear now, because all proposal from our side, we already sent a proposal and we have no response up to now. So the election is there, the results are there, sorry.
Do you think
we expect to get any solutions before that?
Do you think, Helder, that Frelimo and Chapo understand the frustrations of the people and just how hard it will be for them to govern going forward, given that frustration?
When you got an authority government, this feeling actually doesn't matter to them. Chapo knows exactly what is happening. And according to what we know, inside the Frelimo also have a challenge, because there is a two or three parts of Frelimo divided there. So there is a part of them that it's acceptable for dialogue and sees exactly what can be the solutions. According to our proposal, we know that they have read our proposal, and part of this group agreeing with the proposal, which is a joint government and try to make building a better institutions that can be a credible institutions for the country, and trying to pacificate all this movement that the people is claiming for the social life, because the issue of the election is just a reflection of what we got as an issue in the countries, in the social issue in the countries. So Chapo do have this challenge, and he knows exactly what is happening in the country. So to us, this is a kind of a mood operation of this party.
Fredson, do you agree with what Helder was saying there? Will Frelimo be able to see out its term? Will it be able to govern efficiently if the demonstrations, the unrest, the civil disobedience continue?
They definitely won't be able to govern efficiently if the situation continues. But I don't think this is what they believe. What they believe, what the elite, the ruling elite believes, is that the situation is going to calm down at some point. The people are going to get tired from being on the streets there, to the extent that the strategy now is that the police should intervene as little as possible just to protect them in the areas where they live, and allow chaos to take place in areas where most of them do not reside. This is exactly to try to send a message to the Mozambicans, but also to the world, that this is not a legitimate movement. It's just a group of the way they call it, the vandals and people, mere bandits that just want to create chaos. So to make this group lose legitimacy. The idea of the elite is for the Chapo to take office in January, being sworn in as the president of Mozambique, and then bring about a sort of a pseudo inclusion, bring some people from the opposition and to form government, and possibly also invite Mondlane to come back to Mozambique and say, we are free, we are open to discussion, you are Mozambique and you can be part of the process. So I believe that this is what they think, and this is the strategy that they will implement. And it might work because, Mozambique, unfortunately, still remains a marginal country globally. It does not really attract much of the global attention. As you could see from the USA and the European Union, it's just some very, very small comments, but at the end of the day, implicitly accepting the process that took place in Mozambique. So the elite knows that. They know that the country does not really attract a lot of attention, and they can still survive.
Helder, the EU election observer mission to Mozambique noted irregularities during counting and unjustified alteration of election results at polling stations. As we said at the beginning of the programme, the country's Association of Catholic Bishops rejected the results, alleging cases of ballot stuffing and forged result sheets. There's little doubt that something was going on with the election, but with more than 50% of Mozambique's population being under 19 and below, therefore, the legal voting age, could the tampering, do you think, have been enough to skew the results, particularly of the presidential election?
Listen, I think that it won't. This is not a problem of this moment, because according to all the paperwork and what the government needs to make a people to be able to vote, it's everything settled, right? The numbers, it's all official. The problem is for the numbers and to the conclusion of those results was that the administration election, they was just giving a proper benefits to the Frelimo. That's the main concern of all these issues on the results. There is nothing relating to the ages, because we can see young people in the streets, because young people are the part of the people is claiming for all these results. There is nothing relating to that. Of course, the social, as a people, we do have the responsibilities on those young peoples that is inside of the movements. But it won't affect properly the results, because the government have seen that before, to understand exactly what the numbers could be in the future. So now the problem is that there is a fraud there, right? And the constitutional code, they was actually giving just like a advantage for other part, just to ensure that they can maintain a power on that.
Fredson, I'd like you to, if you can, tell us who Daniel Chapo is, President-elect Chapo. Why was he chosen as Frelimo's presidential candidate, given that he's relatively unknown? How could someone like him have won such a landslide victory?
Yeah, I think your question is what is actually intriguing a lot of Mozambicans to the extent that they are on the streets, and even on social media, you can find a lot of people intrigued about that. How was it possible? But you asked why did they choose Chapo? Someone relatively unknown, and they believe that even if the person is unknown, he could still win the election. It's precisely because they've done that in the past. The current president, Filipe Nyusi, was also relatively unknown. So after President Gebuza, the people who followed, the president who followed Nyusi was unknown, but he also won in 2019 by a landslide victory. So they believe that they have an effective machine that will allow the person, although unknown, to win the process. So this also speaks to the fact that elections in Mozambique have been subject to manipulation from the very beginning. So they don't necessarily need to pick up someone that is already known by the people and that the credentials are already very strong. So this speaks to the fraud machinery that operates during elections in Mozambique. So that's what I believe in.
Helder, Sarah touched upon it in her report right at the beginning. Tell us why people are so dissatisfied with Frelimo, the youth in particular, and when did that dissatisfaction begin?
I, from the very beginning, wanted to actually say that this is just one of the crises that Mozambique is facing. Apart from the political crisis, the political crisis don't just, it's not only centered in the current post-electoral violence. We have a conflict in northern Mozambique with, the so-called Islamic insurgency, where the army is shown to be very weak, very corrupt, and unable to resolve it effectively. And the conflict is still ongoing. This is the 7th year, and almost 6,000 people have lost their lives. So we also have very high level of poverty in Mozambique. 95% of the households in Mozambique are poor. So this is a very complicated scenario. And Mozambique has been suffering from the devastating cyclones. We had Cyclone Chido recently, but we also had Kennedy, we had Idai, we had many other cyclones that actually affecting production in agriculture and so on and so on. On top of that, we had COVID-19, that increased poverty level in the urban areas because people were not able to trade and so on. So there was corruption cases as well. You guys, in one of your pieces I watched before, you spoke about corruption cases involving Mozambican officials, the former finance minister and so on. The court case for that corruption case was publicized. Everybody watched on TV, and they could understand how deeply entrenched corruption is within the ruling Frelimo and the governments. And of course, you also mentioned here the fact that the youth that we have today does not have any connection with Frelimo as a liberation movement, not even with Frelimo, with Renamo as an anti-revolutionary force.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Fredson. We're rapidly running out of time, and I want to get two questions to you both before the programme ends. Helder, tell us something about Venacio Mondlane. I know he's not the leader of your party, but why are so many people backing him for president in Mozambique, particularly the young?
Listen, Venancio, it's popular because the plan that we got as a government, it's according to the social issue. And I have to remember you that before that, Venancio was even an activist, and he was always inside the people's issue. That's why he becomes a popular. But it's also related by the issue that Venancio have facing with Renamo about how they have splitting each other. Because on that issue, people was trusting Renamo at all. And I think that Renamo didn't understand properly that they need to make a change on time. And Osufumad was fighting to keep a power inside Renamo, exactly because he do got the deals with the Frelimo party. So this kind of deals that he got, Osufumad got with the Frelimo, was facing issues against Renamo, right? Because most of bellicist members of Renamo, those people was claiming that Osufu was not guiding the party in the right way according to them principles. So what happened to Venancio? At the time that Venancio improved possibilities to become a Renamo's president, his act and what he was claiming, the concerning that he was claiming for, was more fair for the members and the society.
Again, I'm sorry.
On that.
Helder, I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but we're almost out of time, and I want to get one more question in to Fredson. We touched upon this at the beginning of the programme, Fredson. Why is support for former freedom fighters dwindling right now across the region?
Yes. I mean, one, there is also the generational aspect of it, because like I was saying, the current youth is almost completely disconnected. The majority of the youth today with the voters' age have almost a complete disconnection with the narrative of the liberation. And they look at what the government is doing currently. And in Mozambique, and you will also have seen that the same thing happening in South Africa, the same disgruntlement is happening in Angola, in the region, in Botswana. You saw that the ruling party losing, the Liberation Party losing votes, because people are judging the performance of the government merely based on what they see. And what they're seeing today is what we have said here: very high levels of corruption, maladministration, poverty, unemployment, and a number of other crises that these movements are not capable of resolving.
There, gentlemen, I'm afraid we're going to have to end it. Many thanks indeed to you both for being with us, Fredson Guilengue and Helder Mendonca. And thank you for watching. Don't forget, you can see the programme again at any time just by going to the website at aljazeera.com. For further discussion, join us at our Facebook page at facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. And of course, you can join the conversation on X. Our handle there is at AJ Inside Story. From me, Adrian Finighan, and the team here in Doha, thanks for watching. I'll see you again. Bye for now.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.